Hello everyone, and welcome to the Evangelist Nick Garrett channel, and welcome to our next short video in our series on evolution. Today we're talking about various scientific theories and daily applied laws that are at odds in the theory of evolution. The first two I'm going to mention are pretty contentious and are argued from both sides. For example, the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. Really, this comes down to whether one believes the Earth is an open system or a closed system. And if a closed system, energy from the sun obviously makes its way into that closed system on a daily basis. See, species dissipate over time. There are no examples ever of a species becoming or gaining strength, but there are always examples of species dying and degenerating. In other words, not simple to complex, but complex to simpler. A copy of a copy of a copy. The numbers show that we are devolving, getting sicker, faster, more diseased. We lose anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 species per year, depending on the source. As is observable in mitochondrial DNA, the genetic code of our past is stronger. We were taller, bigger, and lived longer. Over time, the copy of a copy of a copy in us became weaker. Next, let's touch on the law of biogenesis. In the 19th century, the theory came about that life can spontaneously generate from nothing. Yet, all observations have shown so consistently that life comes only from life, or as it says in the book of Genesis, after its kind. This has been observed so consistently that it is called the law of biogenesis. Spontaneous generation, the emergence of life from non-living matter, has never been observed. Quote, believing that the first cell arrived by chance on accident is like believing that a tornado could sweep through a junkyard and create a Boeing 747. And what about the law of information systems, or information theory? It says all information must have a source to be valid information. When things come to life, they already contain the DNA, or programmed software. Living things are pre-programmed to come online, live, heal, and generate. Genetic coding does not allow a creature to evolve into any other unless dramatically manipulated by man. Even then, it's rare. Each type of creature is restricted to its kind. No fox can make a whale, a fish can't make a mouse or a monkey. Evolution lacks observable proof for source information. Quote, the theory of evolution suffers from the gravest of defects, which are more and more apparent as time advances. It can no longer square with practical scientific knowledge. What about the law of specified complexity? One strand of DNA has never spontaneously created anything other than its kind of creation, a plant, flea, person, or dog. Quote, evolution lacks a scientifically acceptable explanation for the source of the precisely planned coding within cells, without which there can be no proteins, hence no life. And then there's the fossil record. To date, there is not one shred of fossil evidence confirming the theory of evolution. Darwin himself said this would have to happen in order to substantiate his work. Consistently, skeletons of alleged missing links between man and our supposed ancestor monkeys, including the infamous Australopithecus afarensis Lucy and the North American Piltdown Man, all proved to be fakes and forgeries, such as monkey or Neanderthal heads placed on monkey skeletons. Fossils and skeletal fragments that are accepted do not fill in the gaps in the evolution of man, but create wider gaps containing millions of more years. Jeffrey Schwartz said, given that evolution states life and energy are in a constant state of motion, quote, the fossil record should be rife with examples of transitional fossils leading from less to more evolved. Yet instead of filling in the gaps in the fossil record with so-called missing links, instead paleontologists found themselves in a situation where there are only gaps in the fossil record, with no evidence of transformation, intermediate or in-between fossil species. In his book, The Myth of Human Evolution, Ben Aldrich states, The fossil record flatly fails to substantiate the expectation of finely graded changes over time. And Mendel's laws of genetics, complexity. If it takes 16 billion years to create one meaningful change to a creature's DNA with its trillions of software-like commands, and if we believe that one cell spontaneously created itself in primordial ooze, struck by lightning, how long would it take for a full strand of DNA for a simple flea to come about? We're talking about 10 with about 100 zeros behind it times infinity. Geneticists agree and have proven that humans go back to one source. Still, in the flood scenario, evolutionists will say they don't see how all living things could have only come from 8 people and several pairs of animals from only 4,000 years ago. All life is symbiotic relationships. Trillions of them. And seeds of any kind are pre-programmed source code pods. There are trillions and trillions of interactions inside of these symbiotic relationships before they even become life. There is no answer for this. And what about natural selection itself? If over and over again, over 1 million years, I have a bald dog and a hairy dog in a snowstorm, every day my bald dog freezes and dies, regardless of whether one dog was weak and one strong. I have consistently lost 50% of my dog population. Darwin himself fully acknowledged that his theory was invalid unless they started finding fossils to back it up. Quote, "If an animal is mutating in any way that is going to endanger its chances for survival, we cannot prove that one single species has ever changed." End quote. That's Charles Darwin himself. And what about beneficial mutation? According to Mendel's law, it would take 16 billion years for one meaningful change to occur to a cell, a 0 or a 1 in a strip of coding, to grow into a creature and create a useful function like a flapping wing or an eye blink. Trey Smith tells us that this fails to take into account that a leg evolving into a wing would be a horribly inoperable leg well before it becomes a useful wing. In survival of the fittest, this creature would have never made it to a flying creature. And what about well-respected mathematical laws, like the laws of quantum mathematics and irreducible complexity? Anything beyond 10 to the 50th power is unfathomable and infinite. However, the likelihood of us being here on this earth as individuals is 10 to the 80th power, as well as the likelihood of any life itself being here. However, if consistently we find order in the natural world from the start, evolution has a big problem. Consistently, creation in the natural world is observed to contain the golden mean, the ratio 1 to 1.618, and the Fibonacci spiral or flower of life sequence. This fact alone completely debunks the idea that there's random creation or chaos. Rather, this points directly to order and an intelligent creator. For example, all flower petals and leaves show Fibonacci sequencing. Seashells. The directions of hurricanes and storms. It's modeled in all the great art and architecture of old, like the Parthenon and the Great Pyramid. Also, the study of cymatics, which really is more of a support for intervention theory. Michael Challenger observed that in the study of cymatics or sound frequency, certain frequencies, when aimed at physical matter, gathered itself into various flower of life, tree of life shapes. He notes that in the beginning was the Word, God said. In Hindu, the sound of creation was Om. In Egyptian, the word was song. And finally, the scientific method itself, yes, the one from grade school, cannot be used to study, observe, and prove evolution. This is perhaps the biggest smudge on that theory. How can one prove a scientific theory without anything observable emerging? Outside this method, it is a person or machine with its own subjectivism. If you say, well, they put aside their subjectivism for objectivism, it ignores power structures that influence. And it ignores the point we made in part 1 that scientists aren't bad people. They're trying to explain the world in naturalistic terms. The Bible offers a supernatural answer for why, how, when, and what. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to talking to you on the next installment where we take a quick look at the Great Flood and Noah's Ark. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.